This is Chicago. At the dawn of the 21st century, Chicago's media was dominated by a handful of major corporations. But a resistance movement arose to free Chicago's media from their clutches. One player in this movement is the Chicago Independent Media Center and its TV show, Chicago Independent Television. The Independent Media Center is a worldwide network of grassroots correspondents committed to using the tools of the media for promoting social and economic justice. You are watching this month's dispatch from the Chicago Independent Media Center.
Welcome to Chicago Independent Television, a collection of progressive video reports by grassroots media workers produced free from corporate or commercial support or influence. I'm your host, Alicia Hall. In this episode, we will join up with the Chicago Teachers Union, who are opposing a new round of school closings. We'll also learn about the issue of jury nullification and on efforts to legalize marijuana in Illinois. And we'll hear some legal tips for folks involved in the Occupy Wall Street movement from a longtime attorney and political activist. Stay with us.
Chicago Independent Television is not brought to you by Coca-Cola, whose logo is stained red by the blood of murdered Colombian labor union organizers. Learn more at killercoke.org. Coke, the drink of the death squads.
Mr. Bishop, I want to use this picture on the front page of our next issue.
Oh, come now, Nancy. We can't print a picture like that. Paper is read by people all over the city. Just think what a picture like that would do to the reputation of our newspaper.
I don't think we should hide things just because they're unpleasant. How do we stop things like this if we don't let the people know they're happening?
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. The Chicago Teachers Union fought and won a strike earlier in 2012, but now the school board has signaled that it plans to close many public schools in Chicago. In response to this threat, the union staged a sit-in outside the mayor's office. We will hear from some sit-in participants in this segment.
And I am a teacher in Chicago Public Schools. I've been teaching for 31 years, actually going into my 32nd year of teaching. And I'm here tonight for this action because I believe in a quote that I read recently by Lerone Bennett. And it's saying that an educator in a system of oppression is either a revolutionary or an oppressor. And I feel that I can no longer stand by and be a part of the oppression. I am a revolutionary and I'm here to help my kids. As an educator, just today, I'm still spending my teaching day testing. Between the NWEA testing, the ISET testing, performance task, weekly tests, that test, this test. That's all I'm doing. And those same tests are being used as criteria to close our schools. We're not even teaching the basics anymore because we're testing every day. I'm willing to risk whatever it takes for us to turn this around in education. Our children are losing, the teachers are losing, the communities are losing, and we've got to do better. So I'm here to stand up with the CTU and all the organizations that know this has to stop. As educators in the system, we're revolutionary. And if we're not revolutionary, we're part of the problem and we're oppressive. So I'm here to say that we need to do a better job in our communities and in our schools.
My name is Jeanette Taylor Smith. I'm a parent leader with the Kenwood Open Community Organization. I'm on the LSC at Mollison Elementary, and and also on Jackie Robinson LLC. I'm here today to let Mayor Rahm Emanuel know you cannot ignore your constituents and you cannot close any more schools. I don't care if the city is in deficit. I don't care ways you're trying to save money. You're not going to do it on the backs of black and brown students. The mayor needs to learn that we voted you in, we'll vote you out. So I'm willing to go to jail. I'm willing to sacrifice my freedom. I'm willing to sacrifice anything I can because it's so important that kids in Chicago and all over the United States have a quality education. How can you say your kids are better than mine when the playing field was never level? How can you honestly say that there's an agenda to educate black and brown students when you don't even come to parents and teachers to figure out what are ways to best suit our students? How can you say you have a process where the community is involved when we only get 2 minutes to speak at a board meeting where you've already made the decision and already decided? It's because you take your orders from the mayor. The mayor needs to remember that he works for us. It's not the other way around, and that he's going to be a one-term mayor. I want the city of Chicago to know that parents and teachers love these kids. We fight for these kids. We're standing united together, and that the most important thing to us is that our kids be educated. Who spends more time with my child other than me? My child's teacher. Who sees my child once he's transitioning from home to school? The people in the community. Those are the people who should have the right to say what school should look like. Those should be the people who need to say this is what needs to happen in the community. We're not taking any more closing mental health clinics. We're not taking any more no more nurses in our schools. We're not taking no more psychiatrists and psychologists in our schools. We want world-class education for all students, and we're not leaving until we get it.
My name is Lillian Cass. I'm a special education teacher at Austin Polytechnical Academy on the west side. I've been teaching for 9 years, and I've been teaching at Austin Polytech for 5. Here tonight for a lot of reasons. Where do I start? School closings I've just seen the effect that school closings have had. I used to teach at Calumet on the south side, which was closed and is now a charter school. I'm currently teaching at Austin, which was turned around about 6 years ago and is likely to be turned around again. And I just see the lack of stability, how that affects our students. And school is often, for my students, it's the one stable place in their neighborhood. It's the one place they go every day that they can rely on who's going to be there and what's going to happen, and they can rely on a certain level of structure and safety. And when you close a school or turn it around or make it a charter school or whatever you want to call it, those kids lose that structure, they lose that stability, they lose the teachers and the social workers and the nurses and the counselors who are there for them every day. And all of a sudden, they're going to a building every day where they don't know anybody, and those teachers don't know them, don't know their families, and don't know their communities. And it just creates a chaotic environment that isn't good for the kids and is not conducive to learning. My school currently doesn't have a counselor, doesn't have an art teacher, doesn't have a music teacher, doesn't have an assistant principal, doesn't have a librarian. They've been starving us out. 5 years ago when I first came to Austin Polytech, we were a rising school. Our kids, we had 95% attendance, both for students and for teachers. Now our student attendance rate is maybe 73%, and it's because a lot of these services and additional activities have been cut. They've been starving us out for the last couple of years. We're expecting to be on the list, but whether or not we are on the list, it doesn't matter whether my school is closing or not. I believe that school closings across the city and across the country need to stop because there's no research that shows that turning around a school or closing a school does anything positive for those students or for that community.
Chicago Independent Television is not brought to you by Blackwater, a worldwide leader in security and murder. Learn more at blackwaterbook.com. Blackwater, we kill innocent Iraqis so that you can feel more secure.
I am a soldier who survived the fear of facing Uncle Sam and saying, "Sir, no sir. I won't fight for lies. Forgive me, wounded soldier, for not being there to ease your pain. I'll try on this end to bring you home now."
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. We will learn more in this segment on the legal issue of jury nullification and how it can impact defendants in Illinois in cases of injustice.
We're here to educate jurors about their rights. The right to vote according to your conscience. And if you think that the law is immoral or unjust, to vote not guilty and acquit the defendant. Many people don't know that the jury cannot be tried for their verdict. And a verdict of not guilty is as good as gold. And with the standard of double jeopardy, a defendant cannot be charged twice for the same offense. So even if the law may say that a person is guilty, as soon as the jury votes not guilty, that person is permanently freed. Unfortunately, nowadays, over 90% of court cases never are seen before a jury. This is because the defendants are forced to plea bargain. And we want to try to bring back the confidence that defendants have in the jury system so that people will ask for a jury trial, and then maybe they'll be exonerated by the course of law.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, this is Dredson from Media Skeptic. You know, I'm here to let everybody know about this campaign that we're on today to inform people of their rights as a jury of jury nullification. Jury nullification is basically their right to actually nullify a law if it's unjust or being implied in an unjust manner. And basically what we're telling people out here today is that, you know, if people were to vote exactly the way the law is written, the way the judge actually instructs them, someone like Rosa Parks would have been sentenced to jail because she broke the law by sitting down in the front of the bus. But that law in itself is unjust, which means anyone supposed to vote with their conscience on a jury would actually vote not guilty in that particular instance. Also, if a law is being applied in a way which it was not intended, you know, like someone with a gun that shoots somebody in self-defense, you know, or someone trying to shoot and kill somebody with a gun and he actually shoots and defends himself, that person shouldn't be convicted because they weren't supposed to have a gun if it was found that they actually saved their lives or saved the lives of others. That law wasn't intended to be used in that manner, and that's when the jury should actually vote in their actual conscience and not the way that the judge instructs them. They already told us, came and warned us a few times today. You know, they came and told us once that you got to move your table, and you got to move it again. Then they've come out and saying, we heard you're giving this stuff directly to juries. You know, if you're doing that, we're going to have to arrest you for jury tampering. They're like, no, we're not. We're handing it to everybody. If it just happens so to land in the jury's hand, hey, I have nothing to do with that. You know, this is everyone's constitutional right as an actual juror, and this is something they have been being kept from them for many, many years. So.
Chicago Independent Television is not brought to you by McDonald's. Environmental destruction, unhealthy food, low wages, and repressed labor rights. And lawsuits against people who talk about it. Learn more at mclibel.org. McDonald's, I'm not loving it.
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. Here's an update on efforts to legalize marijuana in Illinois and nationwide.
Yesterday, on November 6, 2012, Colorado and Washington State made history by ending cannabis prohibition in those states by passing their voter initiative referendums to tax and regulate the adult consumption of cannabis. We are very pleased with these results, and we're hoping that the other 48 states will soon follow, especially Illinois. If you would like to help Illinois NORML make cannabis legal for all adults, please volunteer as much time as you possibly can.
Massachusetts, yesterday on Election Day, became the 18th medical cannabis state, easily passing a medical cannabis bill. And even the conservative state of Arkansas came very close, with over 48.5% of the vote in favor of medical cannabis, but falling just short, providing great incentive to the state of Illinois to pass a similar measure through the state assembly soon.
On Tuesday, November 27th, Illinois NORML will be at the Illinois Capitol lobbying for passage of House Bill 30, which is a medical cannabis bill awaiting a vote on the Illinois floor of the General Assembly. We will be there lobbying. If folks would like to help, they can definitely come down to Springfield with us to help us lobby. For those who cannot make it to Springfield, they can contact their state representative, state senator, and urge them to pass House Bill 30 by calling the Capitol switchboard at 217-782-2000 and asking the operator to connect them to their state representative and then their state senator's office. And we are asking our supporters to politely and professionally ask their lawmakers to pass a medical cannabis bill this November.
Chicago Independent Television is not brought to you by AT&T, the company lobbying hard to destroy network neutrality and public access television. Learn more at SaveTheInternet.com. AT&T, your world degraded.
Yum. High fructose corn syrup never tasted so good. I just want to hop around and not focus on anything right now.
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. Here's an interview from the Occupy Midwest Conference held in March 2012 with some legal tips relevant to folks involved in the Occupy Wall Street movement.
With me now is Rich Whitney. Rich, tell us a little bit about yourself and the role that you're playing here in Occupy Midwest.
Sure. Well, I'm from Carbondale, Illinois, and a participant in Occupy Carbondale. I'm also a civil rights and criminal defense and employment lawyer based in Carbondale. I've been doing civil rights and criminal defense work for 14 years. And I'm also with the Green Party and ran as the Green Party candidate for governor in 2006 and 2010. And I'm here at the Midwest Occupy meeting to, partly just to participate and show support. I also conducted a legal rights workshop earlier today.
And tell us what were some of the main things you're trying to convey during that legal rights workshop, Rich?
Well, I covered a couple of things. One, I talked about First Amendment rights and how that applies to the Occupy movement, and some of the limitations of that as far as how courts actually look at First Amendment rights, and getting a little bit into the gray area of what separates speech from conduct, because this is something that the Occupy movement has to confront a lot when, it comes to things like camping and physically occupying a public space, because that is speech, because it's expressive speech, but it's also conduct. And so I kind of talked about how the courts have looked at that, and how when you're dealing with public parks and someone, you have an absolute right to First Amendment freedom of speech, but when you're talking about camping and physically occupying it, that's where it gets a little hazier, and the courts have sometimes weighed in on the rights of the broader public to use this public space for other purposes. So there are some legitimate gray areas there, and I talked about the pros and cons of that and from a legal perspective. Then I also talked about Fourth Amendment rights and dealing with police encounters. And obviously I'm not going to do the whole workshop with you right now, but I think that the two most important things for people to remember is there's two key phrases to recall when you're dealing with police. One of them is, "Officer, am I free to leave?" And the other one is, "Officer, I would like to exercise my right to remain silent." And that, of course, talks about your rights under Miranda versus Arizona, your Miranda rights. After doing criminal defense work for 14 years, it amazes me how many people know their Miranda rights, the right to remain silent, because if you give it up, anything you say might be used against you in a court of law, and yet somehow in the heat of the moment, they forget about it and they don't exercise it. And part of my advice is, if you're in a custodial situation, if you've been arrested, or even if you haven't been arrested, don't talk if you think you might be the person that's being investigated. You're not going to, no matter what the police promise you, no matter what they're telling you about, oh, this will be to your benefit, it would be in your best interest to talk with us. No, you don't have to. But you do need, under the way the Miranda rule is interpreted now, it's important to be verbal about it and say to the officer, you know what, I've given you my name, I've given you my address, my date of birth, that's all I need to give you, and from now on I'm not saying anything else until I have a lawyer present. And they're supposed to stop the interrogation at that point. You have Miranda rights for a reason. Always use them if you can.
Now, Rich, your legal defense training had a certain practical implication within the last 24 hours here. I understand that there were at least 13 arrested and a couple of people sent to the hospital thanks to action by the police. I know that you didn't witness it, Rich, but give us a synopsis of what happened last night.
Well, my understanding is that, there was, I guess, a kind of a civil disobedience thing where part of the movement that was here wanted to occupy a public space past curfew. This is what I'm told. There's other stories floating around. I'm also told that the reason that the police went to arrest people is because a police vehicle had a cracked windshield, but no one seems to know who actually did it. I think it was a bogus arrest, but in any event, for whatever reason, the police decided to make arrests and went chasing after people, and they use what sounds to me like clearly excessive use of force. So here it's not so much where I could have given anyone legal advice other than run that would have made any material difference, because sometimes if you're doing civil disobedience, you are breaking the law. You understand that, but if you're being passive and you're not resisting or you're not confronting the police in any physical way, then you're within, then police are only allowed to use the amount of force needed to effect the arrest. And in this case, from what I'm hearing, they clearly went beyond that and were cracking heads. I understand there's actually some good video footage of this. So really the issue here is not so much, what the people here could have done differently, other than maybe run faster, but the fact that the police went beyond their authorized use of force. So my belief is that the individuals are going to have some pretty good claims based on a violation of their Fourth Amendment rights in either both false arrest and excessive use of force claims, Plus, I also understand even after people were taken into custody, taken to the jail, they were denied proper medical treatment, which means they're going to have a 14th Amendment claim, because once you're in custody, under arrest, there is a legal requirement of the Constitution to provide you with reasonable and necessary medical care, and apparently this did not happen, at least with some people. If there's a legally permitted street march, then that's our right to use it. You always have a right to use the sidewalks as long as you keep moving and you're not obstructing the sidewalk. You have a right to your free speech. You have a right to protest. You know, now, obviously, if there are things involved where you are getting onto government property that's not a public forum, like an actual place of business, that could be a little dicey. You know, there may not be a legal right there. Or if you're going onto private property, that's up to the person who owns the private property. But if you're on a public space, you know, what's called a public forum, like a public park, you have an absolute right to speak freely, that no one should be able to deny you that.
Okay, thank you very much. Rich Whitney, former Green Party candidate for Illinois governor.
All right, thank you, Andy.
Take care.
You've been watching Chicago Independent Television, a project of the Chicago Independent Media Center Video Collective. The Independent Media Center is a growing worldwide network of media producers, journalists, citizens, and activists, working to put the media in the hands of everyday people and away from corporate and commercial interests. To learn more, visit our website at chicago.indiemedia.org. There you can find out about upcoming Chicago area events and how to get involved in making your own media, including how to help make this very TV show. Thanks for watching. See you next time.